Okay, so are you ready to get a little bit deep?
Haha, always. Especially if we're talking about Lord of the Flies. Such a powerful book.
Right. It's one of those that stays with you long after you finish it.
Right.
And actually, today's deep dive is inspired by one of our listeners. They sent us Lord of the Flies because they were really interested in those early chapters. You know, like how does it all start to unravel? How does this island paradise, at least on the surface, descend into, well...
chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Chaos. How does that happen? So we're going to focus on those early dynamics, the seeds of that unraveling.
Sounds fascinating. And there's so much to unpack there. I mean, even that image of paradise is something Golding plays with right from the start.
Oh, totally. You think palm trees, lagoon, coral reef?
Yeah.
Sounds idyllic, right?
Yeah, on the surface. But Golding, he's sneaky. He embeds these little hints of unease right from the beginning. Like, it's beautiful, yes, but there's an edge to it.
It's that too quiet feeling.
Yes. Like, look closer, and things aren't quite what they seem. Remember how Ralph describes the island when they first arrive?
Was it something about cake?
Yes. He says it's like icing on a pink cake.
Okay, so that sounds pretty nice.
Right. But delicious can be deceiving, can't it? There's something almost artificial about that description. It's foreshadowing, like a warning that things aren't as sweet and innocent as they appear.
Ooh, good catch. And speaking of not so innocent, the boys don't waste any time trying to establish their own little civilization, do they?
Right. They go from shipwrecked kids to, like, mini society in the blink of an eye, the conch, the elections.
Assigning jobs, like they're playing grown-up, but they're stuck with only kids. It's kind of fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
And isn't it interesting how they immediately try to replicate the structures they just escaped from? You'd think they'd be all about freedom and no rules, but Golding seems to be saying that this desire for order, however flawed it might be, is pretty primal.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But then you've got Piggy. Right. He's the voice of reason. The one saying, hey, maybe we should think this through a bit more. But does anyone listen? Nope.
He's immediately an outsider. He's got the brains. He has the plans. I mean, he's even got the literal means to see clearly with those glasses.
Which, side note, those glasses. Huge symbol alert.
Oh, huge E. They represent intellect, reason. But as things on the island start to unravel, will any of that even matter?
It's like those glasses are a ticking time bomb. You just know they're going to be important later on.
Yeah, and the moment those glasses are gone, well, Golding does not shy away from showing us what that loss means.
Okay, so we've got this fragile order, a looming sense of unease, and then Golding throws another ingredient into the mix.
The beastie.
The infamous beastie. Talk about a brilliant way to crank up the tension.
Right, because on the surface, it's this terrifying monster lurking in the jungle, right? But if you think about it, the island already felt unsettling, even before the beastie rumors.
It's like those rumors just confirm everyone's worst fears.
Exactly, because the real monster, the one Golding wants us to really be afraid of,
is us.
Maybe. At least that potential for darkness that exists within all of us. The beastie is like a manifestation of that, you know? It gives shape to their fear. And what's scary is how contagious that fear becomes.
Oh, absolutely. It's like 1 minute they're excited about this adventure, and the next they're huddled around the fire, terrified of their own shadows.
And isn't it fascinating how quickly that shift happens?
Yeah, it reminds me of how panic spreads in a crowd. 1 minute everyone's fine, the next.
Stampede.
Yes. And often it's the loudest voices, the ones fueled by fear or aggression, that end up leading that stampede. Which, I guess, brings us to Jack.
Jack. The hunted.
All right. All charm and charisma on the surface, but
yeah,
there's something else there too, isn't there?
From the beginning, you see that tension between him and Ralph. Ralph, who's trying to maintain order, and Jack, who thrives on something else.
Something a little wilder.
Exactly. And as the few on the island grows, guess who has the solution? And it's not exactly building shelters and keeping the signal fire going.
Nope. It's about hunting.
Yeah.
Right? It's about providing that immediate sense of control, that illusion of safety in numbers.
And for a group of terrified boys, it's seductive. But is it sustainable?
Good question. Speaking of things that are not sustainable, can we talk about that scene where they let the signal fire go out while a ship passes?
Oh, man. Talk about a punch to the gut. I mean, that's like symbolism 101 right there.
Right. They have a chance of rescue, literally within reach.
Uh-huh.
And they choose the thrill of the hunt, The need to prove themselves.
It's like their priorities have become totally warped, their sense of right and wrong completely skewed.
It makes you think about what you would do in that situation. Right?
No, absolutely. It's easy to judge, but Golding is sneaky. He puts you right there with them.
He makes you ask yourself, could I resist the same temptations? Would I be a Ralph or would I be a Jack? And that's a question for all of us, I think, not just for a bunch of boys stranded on an island.
When I think about it, it's like the island itself is another character in this whole thing. Like, as the boys are, losing it a little bit, the island is, too.
Oh, for sure. Like, think about Simon. He has that special spot in the jungle, right? His little haven away from everyone else.
Yeah. At first, it's like, oh, here's this peaceful place. But as things get more intense, even that place feels kind of, I don't know.
Tainted.
Yeah, totally. It's like Golding saying that the darkness is spreading everywhere.
Oh, man. And speaking of darkness spreading, Simon's death.
Yeah.
That's when you really know things have gone too far.
It's brutal. And the worst part is he was the only one who was really starting to understand what the beastie actually was. That it wasn't some monster out in the trees.
He was going to tell everyone, if only he had gotten the chance.
It's heartbreaking. And it's like a turning point in the story. Like, after that, there's no going back for these boys.
And Jack basically just takes over, right? Castle Rock becomes his own little
dictatorship. It's intense. And they steal Piggy's glasses.
Oh my gosh, the glasses. Don't tell me.
Oh.
They break them.
Well, it's not just that they're broken, it's that they're gone. Stolen. Which, if you think about it, is even more symbolic.
Because without the glasses, there's no fire.
No rescue. It's like they're cutting themselves off from any chance of returning to civilization.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about it like that before.
It's heavy stuff. Golding really thought this through. And poor Piggy, he just keeps trying to talk to them, to reason with them.
Even though you can tell they've totally tuned him out.
He's like, which is better, rules and agreeing? Or just hunting and killing?
And they just laugh at him.
Basically. It's chilling. They've gone totally tribal.
So, what happens next? Does anyone make it off the island?
So things really come to a head between Ralph and Jack.
Makes sense. They've been on this collision course since page 1, basically.
And Jack's tribe, oh man, they set the whole island on fire.
Hold up, what? They set the island on fire. Why?
To flush Ralph out. It's this insane, desperate, I don't even know.
Talk about a metaphor for everything falling apart.
Right. But just when you think all hope is lost, and it really seems like the island's gonna burn to ash, guess who shows up?
No way, the adults.
A naval officer. Out of nowhere.
You're kidding. Talk about a coincidence.
Right. It's almost comical. Like, they spend this whole time running away from the adult world, rejecting all its rules, and then, bam, they're rescued by the very thing they were trying to escape.
What are the chances? So they're saved then, just like that.
Well, yes and no. I mean, sure, they get off the island, but what happened there, it doesn't just disappear, It's like, okay.
It's like a scar.
Exactly. It's like a scar.
It's like they're, I don't know, forever changed by the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what makes this book so powerful. It's not just about some crazy adventure on a deserted island. It's about U.S.
Human nature.
Yes.
Wow.
Like, what are we capable of when the rules are gone? When fear takes over? Big questions.
Huge.
Yeah.
And, okay, I have to ask, what about Piggy? I mean, he doesn't even get to see the rescue, does he?
Yeah. It's rough. Piggy's death is... it's like this final punch in the gut.
Seriously. Brutal.
Right. You think maybe, just maybe, there's going to be this happy ending. And then, no. Golding takes that away from us.
He really doesn't let you off easy with this book.
Nope. And I think there's a reason for that. He wants us to sit with these uncomfortable truths. About ourselves, about humanity.
So, if Piggy's death is the punch in the gut, what's the takeaway? Because it's not all bleak, right? And there's something about that last scene with Ralph on the beach that always gets me.
Right. When he's weeping.
Yeah. It's so sad, but I don't know, there's this glimmer of something else there, too.
Exactly. And I think that's where Golding leaves us with this tiny little seed of hope. Because Ralph, yeah, he's crying for everything they've lost. Everything they did.
And everyone. Don't forget about everyone.
Right. But he's also crying for that lost innocence. He's acknowledging the darkness, both within himself and in the world. And maybe, just maybe, that recognition is the first step towards making different choices. Oh, wow. I like that. So it's not really about whether or not they get rescued. It's about whether they've learned anything.
Right. It's about whether any of us learn anything. From our mistakes, from history. And that's a question we all have to answer, I think, every day.
Deep stuff. Well, to our listener who sent us Lord of the Flies, we hope this deep dive has given you a lot to chew on. This book, I swear, every time you read it, you discover something new.
It's a classic for a reason. And I have a feeling we'll be talking about it again someday.
Oh, for sure. It's one of those books that stays with you. But for now, we'll leave you with that image of Ralph on the beach. The island burning behind him, the future uncertain. It's not exactly a happy ending, but it is a powerful one that asks us to confront some pretty huge questions about ourselves and the world around us. And on that note, until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and never stop diving deep.
Hear, hear.